guard sometimes and how it's going to affect everybody. For instance, when data centers wanted to come in, there was some issue about, okay, how are we going to provide power? Because there's two things. These things have to, well, actually three. They got to have land, they have to have power, and they have to have water for cooling. So how are we going to do all this? So as far as the electricity goes, the state passed a legislation that said it forced electrical power companies to provide electrical power to data centers. They couldn't just say, no, we don't have the capacity to do that. Well, what that did is that forced electrical power companies to upgrade all their stuff, and instead of charging data centers for that, they were going to spread that cost along to all the rest of us, which is just absolutely not right. So that's an issue that was taking place there. Initially, when data centers were coming online, all they knew is they needed a way to cool it, and apparently they decided the cheapest way was just to bring groundwater and use umpteen jillion gallons of groundwater to do that. Well, when they started getting pushback on that, they started developing a closed loop system, because we all asked, why don't they just do something like a radiator on a car? So that is what the open loop means. They're just flushing it with water. The closed loop means it's in some kind of closed system where it doesn't take as much water as the open loop. So I had a discussion with Stan Curtis's office last night on this issue, and they tell me that there is intense research and development going on right now to provide an even better way, a more efficient way to cool these things than using this closed loop system. So our resolution here calls for a closed loop system, but understanding that a year from now, 2 years from now, they may be a better way to do that without using gears anymore. And the same thing about power. Recently, as you all have heard, the governor came out with some directives with a letter to the state legislature that they're kind of changing their tune on this a little bit in saying that if a data center is going to come in, we don't have enough power on the power grid, because we all know what happened here. We were minutes or less away from a catastrophic failure in our power grid back when we had that horrible winter storm years ago. And we all know that either the middle of summer like we have right now, there's much more heavy load on the power grid, and we don't want data centers coming in, using all that power and throwing us into blackouts and brownouts and everything else. So there's got to be some control on that, and there's got to be some kind of ability for the state, for ERCOT, to be allowed to come in and shut data centers off if, in fact, it's going to be a danger to our power grid. So, there may be new developments in power systems coming on board, but as I understand it, the governor's deal is, if you're going to build a data center now, you got to bring your own power with you. So we'll see how that works out. Back to the water issue. We have water here, and everybody else wants it. We've got, in my opinion, we've got a deal with San Antonio that should have never, ever been allowed to happen. That should not have happened, but it did, because, folks, County Commissioner's Court here, we have got less authority than a city council. Basically, the law says if there's a general law out there that doesn't prevent a city from doing something, they can do it. From the standpoint of Commissioner's Court, if there's a general law out there that doesn't give us permission to do it, that means we can't. So we've got very little control and authority on anything that happens out in the county. research things that's underway here as far as water going. We've got a lot of oil and gas production here in the county. And part of the byproduct of that oil and gas production is salt water. They have to be extracted, hauled to a saltwater well, forced down into a dome, and that's where it's forever stored. There is some research now that expanded about what they can do with that water, treat it, desalinate it, and use it maybe for some of these processes here. Sounds good to me. I was asked if I was for or against data centers. Well, that's kind of like asking if I'm for or against computers, cars, communications, travel, food, medicine, because like it or not, everything, so much of stuff in our lives now involves artificial intelligence, and with that comes data centers. We go on our phone here, we pull up a map of how to get somewhere, guess what? The way it does that so fast is because of data centers and artificial intelligence. Same thing with ChatGPT or whatever it's called. I don't use that much, but I know a lot of people do. Same thing with our communications. So much what we do. Every time we use a credit card, every time we go buy something at a gas station or a grocery store or whatever, that information is all now used by data centers. Every time we buy something with Amazon. So to say that if we're against something or for it, you know, we're trying to look at it from the standpoint, if it's good for the nation, if it's good for the state of Texas, if it's good for Lee County. If it's good for the nation and Texas, but not good for Lee County, that doesn't benefit us. So that's some of the things that we're concerned with here. And we put this resolution together because since we don't have any authority as a county, we want the state to come in and do some of this. And as I understand it from Representative Gert's office, that is underway right now because the state legislature has heard a lot of complaints coming from counties on these very things. And there will likely be some legislation that comes out in the next legislative session next year. Right now, we're in between legislative sessions, but there are interim committee meetings that are being held, and some of these issues are being discussed right now. So, with that, I would like to open this up. Commissioner Turner kind of ran with this deal and helped organize this, so I'm going to open it up now.
Yeah, I agree with everything he said, the judge said. The reason this happened so quick is because everything is happening quick. We know once October hits, all they're going to do is try to get reelected. We know that. So they're trying to get legislation done now while they can. Other counties, I've talked to commissioners all over, they're trying to do the same thing. We can't stop it. This is the only teeth we can put in anything to try to have some kind of control, some kind of something, so we just don't get ran over. Well, that's what's happening. They come here, they got a bigger checkbook than we do. That's just the way it is. Big checkbook wins. We don't have it. So this was something we were trying to get ahead of, and it seemed like it kind of got spun into a bad thing. It tended to be a good thing to try to do something to make the Capitol aware. Do something. Come on. You ask them to come here. They're here. Now you're like, oh hell, what do we do? Come on. Let's do something. That's where this came from. And I deal with GetCore, all those people daily. And not for the last, pain in the butt. That's where we are. This is going to be a pain in the butt. Judge and I met with some people. We've met with people that are going to bring all this stuff to us months later. No more, nothing. This, it comes and it goes, and they got big plans. SRI got all these plans. Well, I don't think they can put a sandwich together. So they sold all this land to somebody that may can do something with it. And now I got somebody else to do it. So this was a way to try to get ahead of things and get with other counties in the state and make. And I talked to Gert's office, I talked to the Cold Course office, I made calls. Come on, let's do something. They're not going to give us any authority, we know that, not much. last two sessions, tell me if I'm wrong, they have tried to take all of the county's authority away to regulate subdivisions. I'm not a big legislative guy. No, I'm not a politician. I don't have a political office. I ain't a politician. Tell that by the way I talk. But I've made calls to Capitol, to everybody I can think to call. Come on, do something. You know, you're gonna take our subdivision regulations away, all of it, so they can run. What's gonna happen when the state runs that? How big a mess is that gonna be? That's all this is intended to do, is give us some help, give us some, put some teeth in some. This is the only thing we have to have any power in this whole mess. So that's where this came from. I got from different counties, Wise County, Collin County, Mountain County. We don't follow Mountain County much. I got some friends up there I talked to. I got Mr. Blocky, did the legal part of it. Judge got in, did his part, kind of came together pretty quick. So that's why it was quick to try to get on it. So they get legislation started to do something else. That's what we're doing. I don't like anyone y'all, it's in my backyard too. It's, well, I think that's Miss Sauer sitting back there. She's surrounded by it. I feel for her. I do. But it was a lignite mine since the 50s, and it kept moving to get bigger. I couldn't buy 34,000 acres. If I could have, it'd be a ranch and have animals all over it. Everybody leave me alone. But I couldn't afford it. This was inevitable. Some kind of big thing was coming. It's here. We're trying to get ahead of it, completely runs over us. What Mr. Block said, once you stand and trying to get run over, we're trying to find a way to deal with the train. That's what we're trying to do. That's where I'm at. All I got to do.
I just my biggest, how many days we can't stop. No, I couldn't get ahead of it.
Do this, let's see, let me think of it. I'm not speech right, it just kind of comes up. We don't need a data center in every corner of every county in every state. I think it's a money grab. Like I said, we all use these things. I don't even know what the hell ChatGPT is, but we all use it at some point. Our cars use it. We gotta have it. Do we need that many? No. I think it's like a lot of things. They see money, they go to investors to get investments to make money, and they saw 34,000 acres. They could buy. You know, good or bad, like it or not, a lot of people, my dad worked there. I was little when he passed away, but he worked there. It brought a lot of wealth to our county at the time. Well, it faded away, and now we got this. People didn't like the coal mine when it came in the 50s, probably. I'm pretty sure. I wasn't born, but I'm pretty sure they did. And now we don't like this, but it's here. I don't think we need that many either. I think Mr. Wagner's right. But when the investors see a way to try to make a quick dime, they're not worried about us. They're not worried about their neighbors. It don't matter about making money. We don't have the biggest shake. So hopefully this, some are gonna come somewhere, they're here. Hopefully this can weed out the really, really bad ones. The fly-by-nights, let's say, that's kind of our intent, is to get rid of those that are money grabbers, that don't care about helping people. That's kind of the intent here as well. And I talked to Gert's office, and I think they're working on legislation now, correct, trying to do something. Will we like it completely? Probably not. At least it'll be something, hopefully. So I'm going to tell everybody that came in concerned, call your legislators, call them. I have called them. Call them. You know, let them know, get your neighbors, call them. Hell, I got their phone numbers. Everybody calls me, you might as well call them. You know, let's try to do something. This is what we got. This is the best I think we can do, in my opinion. I'm going to let the rest of the guys say.
Let me add something to this here, and I meant to say this. We got apparently two kinds of data centers. Those who are going to build them because they need them, and whatever they do. Somebody asked me, what does a data center do? I can't fully tell you what it does. And the industry has done a terrible job at explaining why apparently every community is going to be approached by having a data center. And here's what some of this is. Some of these are going to be agreements to lease or buy 1,000 acres of land or whatever it takes, and come in here and get some kind of agreement with the county, and once they get that done, the skids are greased, and they're gonna turn around, and they're gonna sell that for money, and it's off and running for some fly-by-night company who may then sell it again and again. So this is why so many of these investors are coming into these areas just to see what they can get. I got a call from somebody the other day. I got information that 1,000 acres of land is being pursued here in our area for a data center. Well, that doesn't surprise me, but that's another issue there. Well, he called back, checked on it, and it was actually in Grimes County, if some of y'all know where the old Gibbons Creek power plant was up there that's defunct now. And I actually went to a meeting in Grimes County with the Grimes County judge here about a month and a half ago on that whole situation up there to see if there was any commonality with what we've going on here. It's kind of a different thing. But that's why you hear that so many of these data centers come around. We had somebody tell us the other day, I said, what size is the data center? Why do they gotta be so big? And because it doesn't, you know, when you start talking about 10,000, 5,000, 100,000 square feet, that really doesn't mean anything to me. They said, think of it as a large Home Depot. That's about the size of what the building is going to be or something. But anyway, I just wanted to add that as to why it seems like we got to have so many. I'm not sure we do. I think there's just a lot of investors out here trying to see what they can develop and quickly sell it to somebody who's waiting out here to buy. So that, I'll open it back up to you.
I think I want to say is, I will promise you all how great this is gonna be and everything. It's kind of like that generator up in the north part of the county. You know, that was gonna be all good stuff for them and all that, and then turn around and sell it. I think it's all money deals. I hope maybe this will help us, it won't help us a little bit, but maybe Texas will get, our state will get back involved in it a little bit and help us out.
It happened, this is a scam. It happened, these are scams. It is money making thing. So I don't money from this from other countries.
seen resolutions like this being passed in counties across Texas. I've been working with the independent voters. I was a co-founder of that group, as well as today I'm speaking for Neighbors, which is known since 2024 as Move the Gas Pipe. We've been based in existence in Lee County, and based in Lee County since 1998, 99. And we always work along the interests of people in Lee County and of the surrounding counties. So I'm speaking for them today, and I think the League of Independent Voters will endorse what I've got to say as well, as with the Senate Garage and Water Defense Fund, because as you know, we're pretty heavily involved in water aspects. And we got more to worry about than just Mr. Ridge, because we've now got recharge and full production committed. That means 7 wells in Lee County before they can put 7 wells in Bastrop County, we got 46,000 acre feet, so that was coming. So, and there's the old gateway, big house project is now part of that pool, so that was 18.5, so we're way over permitted if things come to fruition. So the resolution itself, I can make lots of suggestions about it, and we'll do that as we go along, maybe, because we didn't have too much of a time to look at this, but there is one thing that is really of importance to people in blue, and it's in section 1 of your resolution itself, and it needs to come out of this resolution. There's just no two ways about it. Please take it out. And the sentence is, the court opposes approval of any data center development project unless it is powered by the development's own power generation source to prevent excessive constraints on the Texas power grid. That's a standalone sentence that says to somebody who wants to interpret it, you'll approve of it if they've got their own power source. No qualifier that pulls that within this resolution in terms of all the other wonderful policy statements you made. I never saw that sentence in any resolution that I've seen around the state. I think I know who asked to have it in there, if I'm wrong. There's a lot of people that think that it came from the power plant people in our county, because they want us to come in under whatever radar they can get under. And that sentence doesn't work. There's ways that you can work the idea of own power generation in it, because the governor's talking about it, we're all talking about it. But that sentence doesn't have to stand alone like that. It can be combined with other things that they must do in order for you to approve it. Not just because they have power generation, should you have any suggestion that can get them approved by whatever measure you are allowed to approve them at some point, or whoever is permitting.
I can tell you, this didn't come from folks that are normal. This is what the governor wants to say. They want.
But do you understand what I'm saying in terms of
Yeah,
the way it's
yeah.
written? There are ways to write that's what you want, but that's just
Right.
one requirement.
And that's why we want y'all here.
So, I don't need to be striped that, excuse me.
I put that in there, it was based upon the government, had nothing to do with power plant people. And I told Commissioner Turner when I talked about this, I said, one sentence that I thought should be controversial is that sentence. And if it could be said better, we say it better. But I agree that it could be interpreted that way, but it was clearly not anything other than going in the direction that it seems that the governor is directing these projects.
I get you. I knew that would be an alternative explanation, but I just think it can be worded differently so that it's clear that it doesn't stand on its own as a get out of jail card.
And maybe we can just take that out. I mean,
got it. Did you just say take it out?
Take that out. Okay.
Okay, I got one more thing. Actually, couple, but am I out of town? I'm going slow here. The resolution format you're using came about last spring. It's real similar to Wise County, some other counties. And it calls for a moratorium. And you're calling on the governor and the legislature for a moratorium until we get this stuff sorted out. The governor could call a special session and get the legislature in Austin during this interim and not wait till 2027. I'm worried about 2027 because we've got an election in the meantime and everybody's resolve starts to fritter away. We need to do something about it now. And one thing that a lot of folks are calling for, ones that I work with are calling for, is a special session. And iron is hot, let's get that done. So if I were going to be lobbying politicians, that's one thing I would, governor thinks that he's got it under control by doing this batch zero, multiple permits at a time of what's in the queue now. That's never good from any environmental position, but just generally, when you start jamming permits together and permit them as a batch, I know it's gonna boil down the numbers that get through, because some won't be far enough along to get through the right batch. But anything can happen in that meantime, so it's a special session now, stop that. Because they can impose a moratorium. I mean, the legislature is the one that's got to impose the moratorium, is what I'm told. I do know that the governor can get around the need for the legislature to call a moratorium, but I don't think he can do it on his own. He's got to declare emergencies and do things, but he can do it, but he's not going to.
I will say that the Wise County does have a paragraph in it. I didn't put it in there because I thought it was, you know, it's in there, and I didn't put it in there because I thought it was just time pressed. I didn't think that, I didn't see it happening. But we want to add something, what Wise County says is, consider if certain cases warrant time and action inclusion of this issue on the call of a special session legislature
that tandem, you need to sort of key off of that regime and design something for data centers to tell you upfront that they have got their water figured out without, I mean, you know, our bank is busted, our bank account doesn't have anything to give them. I know there's existing permits under some others, you know, get used, but they need to show you where it's coming from and how much. And I think we're finally figuring out, we've got to find out how much water we're actually using, so, but hopefully the state will take care of
What
that.
region are we in our groundwater district? Seven?
EMA 12.
12, okay. As you well know, we can't even get our own groundwater districts to agree on the levels of desired future conditions, which
Very well
to me, that is absolutely ridiculous. That we should have groundwater districts that are just seemingly disregarding that, and their plan is to just issue permits on down the line.
Well, so one of them is issue permits forever,
Yeah.
didn't get filled for a long time. The other one was supplying Brian Power Station, all of a sudden we're gonna export 100,000 acre feet. And
Yep.
that can see comes as a whole concept of what the GSA is supposed to do. They need more authority, they're just a planning group, I mean, they don't have any enforcement authority, so, yeah, it's a big problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Incident, incident, he was supposed to be 5 minutes.
Sorry.
We've gone a little informal communications, the things you hear going on out there. Because people come down here and have a meeting with us, they know, you know what, that's kind of an official meeting. We're gonna be taking notes and everything else,